Welcome, Waterbury Public Schools staff. This is Verna Ruffin, Superintendent of Schools. It's an honor being here with you today. I look forward to the 2021 school year, and yes, it has been an absolute challenge working on this new school year. I have so many people to thank for getting us to this point. And I want to take a few minutes to acknowledge some key people who have been supportive and also instrumental as we move our district forward during a pandemic and during this time when we're reopening schools after we have not been together for such a very long time. As Superintendent of Schools, I have the honor of working for 10 commissioners and the Mayor of Waterbury, Mayor Neil M. O'Leary. Our commissioners, our 10-member board, work tirelessly. They meet at least twice a month, but sometimes they will meet more than twice a month for various policies or personnel or facilities or curriculum needs, and they work tirelessly to make certain that we are successful here. So I'd like to acknowledge them. Our board president is Chuck Pagano. Our vice president is Karen Harvey. Our secretary is Ann Sweeney, who are joined by other members of the board who often hold other responsibilities, including chairs of various committees. Jason Van Stone, Tom Van Stone, Melissa Serrano Ardono, Juanita Hernandez, Elizabeth Brown, Rocco Arso, Charles Stango. Those board members work very hard to make certain that we have everything that we need as we move forward in Waterbury Public Schools, and I want to thank them. I hope that they're listening, and I want to thank them for their contributions because it's an amazing board, hardworking, and really focusing on what we need to be successful in Waterbury. I'd like to also thank the mayor, who's been very supportive. And along with Waterbury Public Schools, the city's committee as well as the Waterbury committee has worked side by side as we've made plans and we've thought and rethought what the opening of schools should look like. The support of many have gotten us to this point. We are pleased as well with the number of staff members who have worked throughout the summer tirelessly, some not even taking vacation time, to assure that we worked and we were able to reopen schools as we received notifications from the governor as well as the Commissioner of Education that all schools must open in the fall of 2021. And while we received guidance and we received many updates, the work is really the work of the district as we were able to formulate a plan that best meets the needs of everyone in Waterbury Public Schools. I want to commend my senior cabinet. They are an amazing senior cabinet. And by senior cabinet, I mean people who have taken on the responsibilities and the roles of helping me run the district every single day. They come with a tremendous amount of expertise and knowledge and talent, and I'd like to recognize them for the hard work that they have done. Our deputy superintendent is Dr. Gregory Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez serves as my right hand as we run the district. However, Dr. Rodriguez will be leaving us to accept a position as superintendent in his very own district. That will be a loss for Waterbury, but I'm so proud of him because he is ready and poised to take on his own district as he leads them to their next step. So I'm excited for him. Likewise, other members of our team continue to work tirelessly. Our Chief Operating Officer, Will Clark, our Chief Academic Officer, Darren Schwartz, our Chief Financial Officer, Doreen Biolo, our Director of Communications, Sujatha Wyckoff, our Interim Director of Human Capital, Juan Mendoza, our Assistant Superintendents, Noreen Buckley and Dr. Janice Epperson, our Board Attorney, Tara Shaw. They work tirelessly in helping us move our district forward. and they worked every day and into the evenings to assure that questions are answered and that we are responsive to the needs of all of our employees. Each of the members whom I have addressed also have outstanding members of their staff who've also worked side by side with them. And we've worked with a number of power users. Those are our teachers who've continuously worked on the virtual environment and the curriculum and instruction to make it stronger today than it was in March, April, May, June, or even July, as we were really working to make a virtual learning environment that would be conducive to the learning styles of our students, as well as to meet all of the standards and the expectations that we have in the state of Connecticut. So standards-based instruction, how do we do all of this when we're navigating a world that we're not familiar with, which is the virtual world? Certainly some of our teachers are experts, and you were experts, and you helped teach others. But we had varying degrees of comfort working on a virtual platform. And so the power users, I thank you. I thank you in advance for all of the work that you have done. I had the privilege of serving on a professional learning session with you and got to meet you virtually. Likewise, our principals worked tirelessly this summer, most of whom were not on contract at the time that we had critical meetings. They attended those meetings. They also took care of their campuses. They weren't obligated to do that, but they were committed to do that, and they did it. And I thank you, all of you, for responding at times that were, I'm certain, not convenient, but at the same time you responded, you actually took the call, stepped up to the plate, and were able to help us collectively as we move on, and we made our district ready and available to begin schools on September 8th. This school year, as we ended the 1920 school year, has been one of the most challenging, not only for us in Waterbury, but for every school district in the United States, as well as many nations and many countries. We acknowledge the fact that the work has been quite unprecedented due to the pandemic. And there are so many other issues that we need to address, and we must address because they affect our students and our staff as we begin this new school year. And yes, the school year begins quite differently. The majority of our meetings have been virtual. Periodically, we would have meetings face-to-face, but the majority of our meetings since March have been virtual in senior cabinet as well as across the district. But the work that has been accomplished has been quite impressive. I would like to thank all of you for that, as well as a number of our teachers and central office staff who have successfully completed the Google certification. So congratulations to you. And I understand that several of you are currently taking the exam, and I wish you the very best. And I certainly hope that more will join us as we continue to develop and we continue to do amazing things on behalf of all of our children in the district. At this point, I would probably talk with you about the strategic plan, because we've worked very hard on developing a strategic plan for Waterbury Public Schools. And I remember last year, it was also a point of reference that many of you providing feedback to us said, we need a strategic plan. What's our plan? What's our vision? What's our goal? Well, we've always had a vision and we've always had goals, but now we also have that strategic plan. Today, however, is not the day that I'm going to detail the strategic plan with you. I will, however, take quality time to spend it with you and to really examine what our strategic plan is telling us about what we need to do, accomplish, and how we're going to be able to see evidence of that in Waterbury. But today is not the day that I talk with you about the strategic plan. Today is the day that I talk to you about the vision and the mission and the direction that we are going in 2021. Why would I do that at this point? I think you know this has been an unprecedented year. It's been an unprecedented 6 months. No one could have imagined that prior to March 13th of 2020, no one could have imagined that we would be physically out of schools out of the classrooms for such a long period of time, that we would lose physical connection with our students and with our colleagues, and that we would have to reimagine and rethink educational goals, educational platforms, that we would rethink how we are going to teach and how we're going to learn, and how are we going to administer computers and technology to 19,000 students as well as to our staff in preparation for what we didn't know at the time was going to be life-changing. It certainly is going to change the way that we do business in education. And what a wonderful group of people to be able to engage in that most challenging work. Yet there is no model. There are suggestions and there are some examples of what other people are doing, but there is no definitive model that says this is the way that we have to go. So for Waterbury, we were deeply committed to hearing the voices of our teachers, our administrators, our staff, our parents, our community. And we did that. We did that as we attempted to perform the best model for reopening schools. It's not the model that everybody perhaps would have wanted. And maybe if it was someone else, you might think that, they preferred another model. But it is the model that we are implementing for Waterbury Public Schools based on much feedback from all of the people that I've just mentioned. It's critically important that many of you attended many of the forums. You attended many of the town halls. Some of you had your very own meeting based on the group that you represented. And it was a pleasure as your superintendent to hear what you were saying. You were concerned, and rightfully so. Not only are these unprecedented times in terms of a pandemic, there are other issues in the United States that we have got to acknowledge, and we've got to acknowledge them boldly because they do exist. They affect all of you. They affect our classrooms. They affect all of our children. And so to say that we are entering the 2021 school year delicately and with assurances about what we can and cannot do because we are working through a pandemic that is still ongoing is really minimizing some of the other issues that we have faced in America, and they have impacted the lives of our students, our staff, and our community. So we have to recognize that while we are in a pandemic, the Black Lives Movement is very real. And it's not a statement that says only Black Lives Matter. We understand that everyone's life matters. But the issue here is to acknowledge the fact that we have got to face the reality that in a very disproportionate manner, Black people, Black men are getting killed, and many times at the hands of very violent people who must be held accountable for their behavior. That affects our students, it affects our staff. So Black Lives Matter affects us as we walk into the classroom because many of our children have watched some of the brutality that has occurred over a very long time. Today's world is different because we not only get to hear about it or read about it in a textbook, you actually got to see it because people were recording it. It has to have an effect on you. It is very deeply a part of the issues that we have to face as we reopen a school year. We have seen some very difficult scenarios of how immigrants are treated in this country. We have got to acknowledge Waterbury is a city of immigrants. It affects our children, it affects us, and it certainly will affect what happens in the classroom. Sometimes you may not know what to say. Sometimes you may not know what to do. But we have to listen because it's real. We can't pretend that it isn't. We also are faced with a tremendous amount of conversations around social justice. It's not just a movement. It's real. When we address policy, when we address the daily routines that occur in the justice system as well as in our schools and our institutions. Public schools are faced with all of those, and we must address them. We cannot pretend that they are someone else's issues. Likewise, we also know that conversations around race have been challenging to have, yet we must have them. We must listen. It's not only your story, it's other stories as well. And are we willing to listen? And we must address institutional racism. It exists. And so to deny it means that we are not willing to at least hear some of the real issues and to tackle them, because they will not go away next month. They will not go away next year. We have to tackle them, we have to address them, and we have to speak boldly when we see an injustice happening to any of our colleagues, to any of our students. That's very important. So as we look and examine what we're getting ready to do in Waterbury Public Schools, all of those are critically important and will impact us as we move forward. Yet I believe that we have the courage to address them. And yes, they are going to be uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable conversations. They're uncomfortable to be able to have someone say something to us that we might feel is really offensive. But the conversations need to be had in such a way that they're respectful of everyone. I do believe that in time to come, I don't believe it's going to be immediate. I do not believe that all of the issues that I have shared with you today and that you know already exist are going to be resolved in 2020, because they're not. I don't believe that the educational platforms that we're creating are going to be finalized in 2020, nor do I believe they will be finalized in the next 4 or 5 years. I believe we are on a journey. We are on a journey to rethink what we do, why we do it, and I want to encourage you to not only rethink those things, but also challenge some of the things that we've always done to determine whether or not those are things we need to continue to do. It was a pleasure welcoming our new teachers 2 weeks ago as you began your journey here in Waterbury Public Schools. And we welcomed over 130 new teachers to our staff. So welcome, and you have joined an awesome team. We also had the opportunity to participate with our teachers and staff, our administrators, as you returned in your buildings on August 24th. It was nice seeing those that I was able to visit with personally, as I visited approximately 5 schools that day, but members of my staff also visited some of the other schools, and we're not only going to visit during this week, we're planning on visiting and spending some quality time with you in a safe learning environment. We are aware that as we open this new school year, there are many things changing in terms of how do we enter our buildings, how do we exit our buildings, how do we teach our children and our students to wear masks. We have created this plan collaboratively, not only with the long-term recovery committee that has been established for several weeks now, but also in conjunction with the mayor's committee and working with various members of crisis management teams, the health department, and others who are so critically involved in and invested in the safety of all of Waterbury. So the plans have been collectively created, and frequently we're going to revise those plans. I want you to know that this is a work in progress. There are times when we're going to start doing something and then we're going to get a different direction. And either that's going to be guided by information that we continue to get from the CDC or information that we get from the health department, but always with your safety in mind. As we begin the school year, we've chosen the hybrid model to begin school. What that means is that we are going to be starting Monday through Friday with our students, the 40% of our students who have indicated that they will be in-person learning with their teachers in their classrooms. We believe that with 40% of our students returning, we can successfully create the distancing that we need in the classrooms, as well as advanced determinations of routes to manage students' hall passage, as well as changing classes, as well as meal preparations, but not without challenges. So I thank you in advance for working with your principals and working with your schools to determine how that might look on your campus. All of our 32 campuses are quite different, and it takes all of you together with the leadership at your schools to determine the very best ways to operate your campus. And we appreciate you working very hard on this. And it is a challenge. There's not an easy way to manage that kind of restriction, but it is critically important for our safety, and it's important for your safety. Likewise, we have also created a virtual academy. And we believe that 60% or so of our students are going to be participating in a virtual academy. Through a lot of hard work and examining various models, we believe that the best way to move our district forward is to allow the teacher with his or her own class roster to be able to teach the students in person, as well as teaching their same students in a classroom, but virtually. So a teacher doesn't have to prepare 2 lessons. A teacher doesn't have to teach one group of students in the morning and another group of students in the afternoons. You get to teach your students almost as if all of them were in person, except some will be in person in your classrooms as you deliver instruction, but the students that are virtual will also be able to engage in that lesson, see you, talk with you, and be able to have instruction from you. We also believe that this model would allow us to be able to re-enter students if we are going to eventually have more students entering the classroom over a period of time. And we also believe that in the event we have to go into another quarantine, this allows the students and the teachers to know exactly who their class rosters are, who their teachers are, and how to be able to continue to make connections. Likewise, all of our students needing a computer will be issued a computer. We've also ordered computers for all of our teachers, and you should be receiving those very soon. We believe that in order to do the work that you're asked to do, you need the appropriate tools to be able to do that. And so we have made certain in our technology plan for teaching and learning that we have provided a computer for the teachers, as well as to make certain that our students needing a computer would have access to one. We started distribution of computers this week, and we will continue until all of the students who have indicated that they need a computer for teaching and learning will be distributed a computer. Also, we're going to increase the rigor of our online platform. We've already done some of that, and we're very appreciative to the academic team, all of the supervisors, as well as the academic office, all of the principals and the teachers who have worked tirelessly to make certain that the learning will continue, and it will continue at a better pace, and also the quality of materials that we're able to introduce are better now than they were when we were attempting to do this in March or April or May or June. We learned quite a lot during July as the summer school programs were ongoing. We learned from that. We learned what we needed to improve on, as we learned what some of the best practices needed to be and to continue. We're going to make mistakes across this entire year. We are going to learn from those mistakes. And I want you to know that at times when we make mistakes, it's just okay to make them, because we are learning. We're actually doing something that we've asked our students to do. And some find it quite challenging to actually have students do that. But do you remember as a teacher telling your students, okay, you have to figure it out. Let's struggle over that. Don't give them the answer. Let's just see what they're thinking, how they can create this. Children can problem solve. Give them the right tools, but give them the time to think through it and they'll come up with the right answers, well, now we're students also. And we're having to practice exactly what we've said we wanted our students to do. We are literally learning as we go. And the mistakes that we make are not fatal. The mistakes that we make, we learn from them. And we keep moving and make better choices. We learn different approaches. We have different methods, but we get better at the end. So I would like to encourage all of us to be able to accept that as part of change. And part of change as we are rethinking what we do, and we're rethinking what our practices are going to be as we move forward in developing this new educational platform. Because even when we are all in person again one day, we're still going to utilize technology for teaching and learning. So it's critically important that we not lose sight of that as one of the key factors in our professional development, that we make that a commitment to continue to learn and to continue to develop and improve on our online learning platform. Obviously, some great things have been happening, even in the midst of a pandemic. We recently, we recognized that we do not have many data points for our 2019-20 school year. But an interesting and most relevant data point was just released a couple of days ago, and that was the advanced placement results. I was so proud of our schools, proud of our teachers, proud of our students, proud of our leadership on campuses, because we saw dramatic improvements in the advanced placement scores of 3, 4, or 5 on an advanced placement exam. Because a 3, 4, or 5 for many students means that they will be able to accrue college credit. In the past, we've had a number of students not take the AP exam, or we had a number of students score 1 or 2. This year, for the very first time since 2015-16, we saw a marked improvement in our advanced placement scores of 4s, 5s, and 3s. We saw amazing results from our students. And so I want to commend you. You will be getting those results shortly. But I also want to note that Kennedy High School had such a dramatic improvement on students completing their AP exams with scores of 3, 4, and 5. It's a marked improvement. So I'm very proud of you, Kennedy High School teachers and staff and students, for this outstanding work that you have done. I'm also proud of all of our schools, all of our high schools, because we have also improved and increased the number of outstanding scholars through this AP exam. And you will be seeing those results very shortly. But it's certainly worth mentioning right now that even in a pandemic, we were able to see increased improvement in our advanced placement test scores. And while we are experiencing this pandemic, I want to acknowledge the number of teachers who never stopped utilizing your skills and utilizing technology. You never stop. Even when the pandemic occurred, you continue to connect with your students online. You continue to develop and evolve in the Google Meets classroom. And I am so very proud of you and thank you for continuing to do that. Likewise, a tremendous amount of funding has been dedicated to the Curriculum and Instruction Department. We've been able to purchase curriculum that in the past we could only hope for. So with the Board of Education, along with the city, along with all of the repurposing of our funding, we have been able to make that possible. And it was so timely, because while we were purchasing this curriculum, we certainly did not know that we were going to be in the midst of a pandemic. And the resources that we were able to get through the Curriculum and Instruction Department, through the textbooks, through the resources, through the supplies, through the materials that we were able to purchase, all of those came in an electronic platform. So we were able to meet the needs of our students. We want to continue to stress that, because I think that has played an important part in our students being more successful in our advanced placement exams. I want to challenge all of us to continue to continue to move forward as we embark on a new school year that is not going to have a roadmap for every single day of operation. What I want to assure you, however, is that safety and the health of all of you is critically important to me as superintendent. So we're paying attention to the safety protocols that we've embedded in the plan, which is also available on the website. But I know that your principals have also covered that with you on your campuses. We are not going to forget about safety and about taking care of everyone's health. We want you to be aware of your protections in the district. We are assuring you that our masks and our PPEs are going to be provided, that we also have taken additional steps to assuring that campuses are not only clean, but that we're going to be able to sanitize areas. We're going to continue to provide resources for our students, and we have made it very clear that we expect our students and staff in the schools to wear masks. And while this is not punitive, we do not expect that this is going to lead to any kind of discipline. What we want to do is assure that if someone is not going to feel comfortable wearing a mask, that we, first of all, find out why. Is there a medical reason? Is there a reason that they perhaps are not feeling well at the time? Is it because they are not able to breathe at the time? And to find out the why before anything ever becomes punitive for anyone. And then to also take the student to the side if there is an issue, and to determine whether or not the student just needs a break and can come back later on with the mask. And if the answer is no, I just do not feel that I can wear a mask all day long, because wearing a mask all day long is a challenge. It's a challenge for adults, and it's going to be a challenge for children. So if the issue is, I just can't wear a mask while I'm at school, then to have the appropriate conversation with a parent or guardian and offer the virtual academy. Because those are unsettling times. We do not have the answer for every single situation that could occur. But together, I believe we can problem solve, and we could come up collectively with the best response to meet the needs of our children and our staff. It's critically important that we do that. Whether students are learning in the virtual academy or they're in person in the classroom with our teachers and our staff, all of the students will have an opportunity after dismissal to engage in online learning, asynchronous learning. At that time, students are engaged in the work that teachers have prepared for them to do and to continue to do with or without guidance. Our teachers will also have office hours. They'll have planning period. They'll have an opportunity to have lunch in an environment that we hope is going to be a peaceful one for all of you, because we are embarking on this new schedule. We're going to learn from that as well. In the afternoons, when students are engaged in their independent work, the office hours will also allow our teachers to connect with students that need to reconnect with you online, as well as an opportunity to call parents and to call families to give them an update on how their children are doing. Students must attend school. They will attend school virtually, or they will attend school in person with their teachers. Either way, students will be connecting with their teachers at the same time every day, whether it's in person or virtual. That's going to be a shift from what happened last year. Students last year were not accustomed to tuning in with their teachers at the same time. And oftentimes it was not connection at all. This is going to change. There's not a choice of whether I attend school or not. The only choice is attending in person or attending virtually. Therefore, it's critically important that we reach out to all of the families and we make certain that they understand that students must be in school. And there are two choices at this time, or to be in school in person or to be in school virtually. As we continue to develop our online platform and we continue to examine the status of the district as well as the state of Connecticut, we will keep you informed if there are any developments that would change either a scenario for a school, for a classroom, or for the entire district. What that means is we have placed protocols for what happens if someone does contract COVID-19. I think that's going to be important, and I know that I've heard you ask questions. What happens if someone has it? Will you tell us? Absolutely. We believe that we are tightening up the protocols. We will publish those later on during the week if you've not already received them. And they will tell you specifically what happens if someone contracts COVID-19 in a classroom. They will also go into detail about how the communication will be forthcoming to everyone in that classroom, everyone who may have been in contact with a person who has tested positive, as well as the next steps in the results, whether it is going to be a full class quarantine for 14 days, whether it's going to affect more than just a class, and we'll communicate that with you on a case-by-case scenario. It's important that you know what those procedures are and that we are consistent in following those procedures, because it is a major concern for you as our staff and for parents as well. For all of us, if we're not feeling well, if you have a fever, you need to stay home. And because of the fact that we now have a virtual and in-person environment, it's going to be important that if you indicate that you're not returning in person because you have a fever, but you have chosen to teach online, that you let us know that, because that makes a difference in whether or not we have to specially staff that room while you're gone, or we have to make certain that because you're not feeling well, you cannot also handle the online portion of the day. And who do we get in the interim to cover that class? And it's important, and we've also discussed that with our principals and other staff members, that we want as little movement of our students as possible. So in the event that a teacher is out, we want to assure that we have backup staff as well as substitutes to be able to cover the class so that our students are not dispersed to multiple classrooms. While it has been a challenge to create the 2021 school year as we began in September, it was done with all of you in mind. And as we move forward, I ask for your continued support, your encouragement, and that you help us to problem solve as we redesign education in Waterbury Public Schools. As we've worked together to begin this 2021 school year, I'd like for you to know that we will continue to seek your input. We will continue to communicate with you, and likewise, we are available to answer questions that you may have. We want to support you and be there as we continue to rethink and reimagine what Waterbury Public Schools will offer and how we will develop in the years to come. Thank you very much for joining the Waterbury Public Schools team. It's a pleasure being your superintendent, and I look forward to meeting with you personally as I visit your schools and as I see our progress for the 2021 school year. Welcome.
Hello everyone, I'm Mayor Neil O'Leary, and it is my pleasure to congratulate our Superintendent of Schools, our incredible school administrators, our school teachers, our students of course, and their great parents. Congratulate you all on this very difficult time, but working together so that we can open up our schools for the 2020-2021 school year. Listen, we know these are challenging times, and we know that things can change day by day, hour by hour. But if we all work together and we all listen to one another and we all appreciate and understand the challenges that are happening, I think we can get through this school year in a very, very successful way. You know, we all know how important education is to our students. But we also want everyone to understand that health and safety is our #1 concern. So please, be patient, be flexible, be fluid, be willing to think out of the box a little bit. Also, be willing to provide feedback to us in ways that you think are going to improve the services that we're providing, particularly in the area of our curriculum and education. So I'm looking forward to hearing back from you as the school year develops. I'm also looking forward to visiting each of the schools as I do or try to do each and every year. And I'm actually very excited that we're working together and collaboratively so well in these very trying and difficult times. Thank you, God bless, stay safe.
To the students, teachers, and staff of the Waterbury Public School System, I welcome you back from an interesting summer, I'm sure, for most of you. My name is Chuck Pagano. I'm the president of the Waterbury Board of Education. I know we're living in historic times, and I'm sure you know we're living in historic times. I welcome you back for an opportunity to clear your mind, start over again, refresh, and start the learning process and taking care of the students. Have a successful semester, welcome back, and please do not forget your mask. Thank you.